You're listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paventa, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Welcome to the new episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today, my guest is Piotr Chimko. He is my friend and a great leader that I know, and I worked with him in nonprofit organization in Toastmasters. I know that he's a great leader, and he is also a leader in the corporate environment. So today we will have a conversation about leadership. Hi, Piotr.
Hi, Elena. Thanks for invitation.
It is great to have you on my podcast, and I'm sure that this conversation is going to be insightful. So you are a leader, you have the experience of leading teams in a corporate environment, in nonprofit environment. How do you perceive yourself as a leader? And do you think it is easy to be a leader?
Well, it's in corporation, nothing is easy. That's what I like to say. If there were no people in corporations, if everything was easy and simple, we wouldn't be needed. But at the same time, leadership, being a leader, being a manager, because I like to combine these two terms into one, is a specific assignment. So you have experts. You have specialists, you have people who take care of a very narrow specific area of expertise, and they provide the value in that way. And you have managers who have certain qualities, who have certain character traits, who are able to bring people together, to make them do what is needed to do, to help them create a value that is needed by the organization, be it a corporation, be it a company, be it a nonprofit. To achieve the big goals of that organization. So it depends on if your character traits and preparation and experience makes you a good fit for a leadership role, then the things just are easy. Is as much as if you're an engineer with many years of experience in certain area. The challenges that you are facing might be impossible to face by others, but are easy for you. It's very similar thing. I like to say that managers are experts in running teams.
Yeah. So, and what traits do you think we need to run teams?
Oh, there's a couple of them. One of them is obviously a perfect communication. I mean, you really need to be a great communicator. You really need to know how to listen to people, and it's not by accident that I'm saying that I'm mentioning listening as the first part of the communication, because it all starts with listening. You need to be able to combine, to make your ideas ring and sound in a way that is perceivable, that is that is easy to adopt by people who you talk with. You need to be able to communicate difficult messages. You need to be able to help support in solving conflicts, resolving conflicts in the teams. You need to be able to speak to your stakeholders, sometimes very demanding, who will often want to tell you what you need to do, despite of the fact that they might have no idea what you are doing. You need to speak to people who are running the organization on higher levels, again, be it in the company or be it in the nonprofit. So communication in all kind of senses, in all senses, in all ways. So communication is the first number one. The second thing, you need empathy. We call it sometimes emotional intelligence, but the emotional intelligence very often starts with empathy. And empathy doesn't mean that you feel others. Empathy means that you can understand what others feeling or what certain actions might cause others how they will feel. because people actions very often, or usually, or I would even say always, start with feelings, with feelings, and feelings are very much related to their needs. So again, empathy is being able to understand people's needs and emotions.
Yeah.
So I would say communication, empathy. If you have communication, empathy, and also kind of a strategic vision where you want to go, these three things combined together are likely to make you a good leader.
And what if we don't have some of those skills? For example, we are not very good communicators. Do you think it is possible to learn this in practice, or how does it look like?
Well, I like to say that you can learn almost anything if you want. You can learn empathy, which might sound as strange as it sounds, but I know people who were able to learn empathy, because empathy, again, is not compassion. It's something completely different than compassion. And you can learn empathy, and you can learn communication. Well, you and I are very good examples of people who started with some kind of certain level of communication, and through Toastmasters, through our experience in Toastmasters, we managed to get to a quite high level of skill in communication. And we are much better communicators these days than we were a couple of years ago when we started in Toastmasters. So you can learn communication, you can learn empathy, you can learn strategic thinking. Well, funny thing is that because I give you an example, for many years I thought I was not creative. So I was the person who, when I was given a task, I was able to do that task. But if I were to ask to do something creative, to come up with an idea, I consider myself as not being really good. But then I had a person who I spoke to, and he said, Piotr, that's a learnable skill. You can go read that book, take that exercise, go for a course. And well, finally, after a couple of years, I don't speak about myself as a person who is not creative. Maybe that's not my strongest trait of character, not my strongest skill, but I can be creative if that's required. So anything is learnable.
Yes, so we can definitely learn. And when we start our role as a leader, as a team leader, for example, looking at your organization, when you see new team leaders that are just starting those roles, what are the biggest challenges for them?
Well, it depends. It depends on whether you become. I give you an example in the company. If you are part of the team and you suddenly become a team lead of that team, then it might be difficult for you to overcome certain personal, some interpersonal or personal relationship with your teammates might sometimes stand in a way of you being an efficient manager, efficient leader. So if you come out of the team and you become a team leader of that team, there are certain things that you need to think about and need to prepare in terms of the relationship with your former teammates, to make sure that you become that you are efficient, that you realize your mission. The other challenge is that if you come from outside and there is an existing team that you take over, so you need to establish the relationship from the very beginning, and you do it by expressing your expectations, your way of working, sharing what the team can expect from you, and also asking the team what do they expect from you, how do they want to cooperate with you. And then at a certain point, you should be meeting somewhere in the middle to make sure that everyone's needs are to a large extent fulfilled, because then it will make the team good. The easiest part on one hand, it's the easiest part when you are able to create your own team, to recruit your own team. But then recruiting is a completely different area of expertise, and you need to be good in recruiting to make sure that your team is good. So that's a completely different story.
Yeah, and you're mentioning creating the atmosphere in the team, and being empathetic, being good communicator, and what about the hard situations? So when you, for example, you have tasks to do and you see that someone is not doing their job, and I think that it happens quite often. So this is quite challenging if you are a very good communicator and very empathetic, but still you need to have this skill of managing conflicts and managing difficult team members. Do you have any tips or best practices for such situations?
Of course, it's a bread and butter of manager's life. It's nice if it's great if you have a good team that is performing, but well, once in a while there will be people who will not be performing for different reasons. So first of all, you need to understand what's happening. So if you have a person who was performing and suddenly stopped performing, well, it's your job to make sure that you know what's happening. Of course, people might not be willing to share with you some personal details, but you need to learn as much as possible. And you need to make sure that this person will believe that cooperating in a hard moments with you is for their good. So it might be, a difficult period of life. It might be getting depressed for some reason. And then if you understand it, you can address that and you can come up with that person to a joint mutual solution, and that person adhere to that agreement. It will go for good. Sometimes you have a person who comes to your team and you believe that person, you give it all to that person. You do the proper onboarding, you help them start up, but this person is not willing to cooperate. The challenge here is to recognize it as soon as possible, as early as possible, that you have a non-performer. And of course, you will make mistakes in recruitment. Yeah, it's inevitable. You will make mistakes in recruiting, and it's good if you understand early that this person it shouldn't be in your team. And then there are ways to make that people help these people make their own way outside of this organization. It's not the easiest thing, but well, it's part of the deal. And sometimes you have people who you seemingly they perform, but you see or you sense or you have a feeling that it's not really the case. And this is the most difficult part, because on one hand, you see everything seemingly is right, but and you feel that in the background, there's something wrong. And these people are very hard to, it's very hard to recognize the root cause of that problem. And it's very hard to seemingly as everything is all right. The problem is that these people are likely to destroy the whole team behind your back. And well, there is no good recipe for such situation. You need to really be vigilant. You need to try to be as open as possible. And if you feel that this person is actually causing problems, I would encourage you to bring that thing on the table, even among with other team members, or one-to-one. To check what's happening. And if bottom line, long story short, really trust your intuition, because if you feel that something is wrong, it is very high chance that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm. And when we actually come to this point that we need to talk to the person, do you have any tips on how to do this? Because I know that many people they have this conflict avoidance and they don't want to speak about the hard topics. And I think that this is one of the biggest challenges of young leaders, that they just don't want to deal with conflicts and they avoid them. Do you have any tips for that?
Yes, I do, because it was my way. I really found that extremely difficult to make that tough conversation with people who are not performing. So if you ask me, my first case when I had to let people out of the organization, It was extremely difficult. I needed to have someone else's support. So typically in a company, you get HR support in such cases, but it was very difficult. So I was really preparing for that conversation. I learned parts of what I was supposed to say. I learned that by heart, really. Yeah, so that not to not to block, not to stop myself from doing that, what was inevitable. But that was just the first case. After I found out that it's survivable, and after I let the people out of the organization, suddenly the organization, my team started performing better, because the team expects you as a leader to take action when they see that someone is not performing. They see you as standing in protecting the team from something, from the bad things. If you convert your thinking in okay, I need to let someone out and I need to do some bad things to someone, I converted that in a way that I need to protect my team from, well, from the bad things, yeah, from the underperformer who is polluting or poisoning the mood, the spirit of the team. And of course, the first time is hard, but it's like with many first times, they are hard, and the next ones are much easier. So you just need to learn it. Learn by heart, find the support, and convert the bad, that is the bad, doing something bad, when letting someone out, for example, or asking someone out of the organization or out of the team, into thinking that as a result you will protect the team and you will make the team even stronger and performing in future.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for giving feedback without saying you're doing it wrong? do you have any way in how you usually tell to people that they are doing something not correctly?
Well, until we are really in the final, let's say, final situation where I'm asking people to go out, where I really need to say, because of this and this and this and that, because it's required by law in the company, by Polish law, you really need to tell people why they are letting them out. Until that moment, I really work in a coaching way. So if you ask me what kind of manager I am, I'm much more I'm very democratic and coaching manager. That's my style. And it's very hard for me to be directive, although sometimes I really have to, but it's not, fortunately, it's not, these are rare cases where I have to, but normally I'm a democratic and coaching manager. So if someone comes to me and we have a discussion about their, let's say, shortcomings, I convert it in a way that we learned at Toastmasters, that each shortcoming is an option for opportunity for development. So if someone is, for example, making mistakes, repeatedly they making mistakes, and the job they do requires being thorough and not making mistakes, well, we try to find out the way to improve on that, because it might be behavioral, it might be lack of attention, there might be different reasons why something is happening. I always invite a person to be part of the solution, not that I say, okay, you have to do this and this and this. I as much as I can, I try to invite people to create their own solution for the problems as much as it's possible. So points for improvement. If you ask me points for improvement, hey, let's work on the accuracy of your work. Let's think how we can improve the accuracy of your work. So this is the kind of the message that I'm giving to that person, and I know that I need to spend some time with that person to make sure that we get finally to the solution.
And do you see any difference between leadership in the corporate world and leadership in a non-profit organization, comparing your two experiences, because you were leading teams in both environments? What differences do you see?
Oh, Elena, thank you very much for that question, because if you ask me, I believe that anyone in the regulated environment, like a corporation, like a company, before they allowed to lead the team, they should get the experience in a non-profit. Where people are doing something because they want to do, because they are voluntaries, and they always can say, haha, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. So Toastmasters taught me how to deal with people who are willing to do something, but we don't have any power relationship. Yeah, so I cannot, even I tell them what to do. If they don't want to do, they will not do that, or they will say, hey, get lost, I'm not going to do that. So learning in the organization, in a non-profit based, voluntary based organization, is a wonderful training field before you are actually given a team in a company. And I like to give the parallel between flying the gliders and the regular planes, yeah, with the engine. So if you, I heard that story that if you learn to fly the gliders, then when you jump on the plane, on the regular plane, it's just the engine who just helps you achieve your goals, your targets. And it's the same. If you learn how to manage people without the power relationship, if you suddenly get the power, you get that power relationship in the company, it's just much easier, but the behaviors are the same. Yeah, so you need to if you invite people for cooperation, if you make them part of the solution, if you make them part of the decisions, how they want to get things done. And if you run your, let's say, paid teams in a way that you run your voluntary teams, you get much better results. It's just as simple as that. That's why I always say, before you get to manage the real paid team, try to make yourself put in a situation that you manage a voluntary team.
Yeah, I think that it is a great school indeed. After your team in nonprofit organization can say that they're not going to do something, or they are not going to do it your way. They have their own way of doing things, and this is challenging. And I think that in corporation, people are rather easier to manage because there are certain procedures that they need to follow. In nonprofit, people sometimes get very creative and try to invent a wheel and invent new things, new procedures. So it is changing all the time. And I think that also what we can learn from a nonprofit organization is appreciation. Do you feel that you started, after going through this School of Leadership in Toastmasters International, do you feel that you started to appreciate people more in your team, and how are you doing this?
Well, that's something that this topic is very close to my heart, because in Toastmasters it's really all about recognition. I mean, this is the way you pay people, because you give them certain certificates, you give them certain awards, you bring them on the stage, you say, this is wonderful leader, this is wonderful director, this is wonderful club president, or something like this. Then you bring them to the surface, you show, and you say, okay, this is the recognition time. In a company, it works a little bit differently, and I must say that I always think that in the company I do it less, and even I think I do it less than I should, yeah, so to say, because well, there's so many other ways that people are recognized, with their salaries, with a sense of accomplishment, with a good word from their peers, with a good word from their managers. But we even have the kind of small awards we give to people. But for example, I know that I'm not using these tools as much as I could to recognize people. And it's only once in a while I say, oh my goodness, it's recognition time. It would be great to say a few words to these people, to those people. And then I do that. But it's really, I think I underestimate the power of that in the company, Also because we have the, let's say, we meet every quarter, we meet every half a year, we have our yearly reviews as well, where I actually write a long story about the people's behaviors and achievements. So for me, I think, now that you ask me, I think that I have a feeling that it's sufficient. Although if you ask me now, I know that it's not really sufficient. I think it would be better for me and for my teams and for people if we recognized one another more than we do.
Yes, indeed. And even recently, when I organized my TEDx event where you were present not so long ago, we had those certificates for our volunteers, for people who were having different functions at the meeting. And of course, during the event, it was so hectic and crazy that we did not get to have a proper Hall of Fame or ceremony where everyone would get applause and appreciation and kind words, because we were working from 7 a.m. till midnight. Mm-hmm. And I would say that some people were not satisfied with that. I felt that they wanted to
be recognized on the stage.
Be recognized on the stage, and everyone individually with certificates, with presents. So I think that I feel that people need this, even if this is not financial recognition, even if this is just a couple of words, thank you for your great work, or giving a certificate, which does not cost much. It is so important for people. So I think that this is something we really need to introduce to our business environments from nonprofit organizations, because we can see how people appreciate those small things.
Yeah, it's a matter of just giving a small recognition on the stage and just say a few words about those people, and that's how they feel appreciated. Yeah, and it just costs a little bit of time, and as you say, something printable, maybe small gift. Not a big deal. I remember that at the end of the Toastmasters conferences, at the end, there's always this organizing team coming on the stage, and the chief organizer always says a few words about everyone, and thank you for this, and thank you for that, and here's our person who is responsible for that. And without that person, that would not happen. But it takes time. I mean, you remember, it can take up to 1 hour of that, the Hall of Fame. But that's how in Toastmasters we kind of pay to people, through recognition, to public recognition. And I could feel that at the TEDx, it was very brief, very short. Yeah, just a couple of minutes. Hey everyone, this is the team. You did a great work. Thank you very much. And you get the present, and then you go. And that might be, as you say, that might be just not fully sufficient, huh?
Yes, absolutely. That's why we're having a separate Hall of Fame, which is only for our team, without all this production craziness, mm-hmm. where we are speaking and appreciating each other. So I think it is really important to organize such meetings, especially if we don't have time during the task, during what we're doing, to at least to have a small feedback session or a team meeting afterwards.
Yeah.
So Piotr, what to sum up our conversation, what is your tip? What is your advice to young leaders who are just starting their careers? They are team leader for the first time. They don't know what to do. They are overwhelmed. So what is the most important thing that they need to remember?
It's like with everything that you learn, I mean, you will not get to the top without going all the way up. So it's just learn step by step. Get the mentor. The mentor is an extremely important part of the development. Get the mentor. Get the person who you would like to be in a few years' time, so that they can inspire you. They can tell you, hey, avoid these mistakes and pay attention to these areas. Yeah. So get a mentor, be positive, because learning is hard by itself, and learning management is particularly hard because you are dealing with people who are always unpredictable, not with the system whose systems were typically predictable. If you work with people, it's unpredictable. So prepare for unpreparable. Prepare to be flexible. Prepare to listen. So the ratio listening versus speaking is like 80-20. Think about that. And well, I think Elena, at a certain point, I will write a book about that.
Perfect. We are looking forward. I'm looking forward to your book. Definitely. I think you have great experience in leadership. And if our listeners want to contact you, to ask you additional questions, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I'm pretty, if you want to find me, I am pretty easily findable. LinkedIn is probably one of the best options. If you like to involve me in a conversation, just drop me a line. One tip, if you just send me an invitation for a contact without any background and I don't know you, it is high chance that I will not accept your invitation. So make sure that you introduce yourself with a purpose, and then we'll see what happens.
Yes, this is a very good tip in general for all people. So thank you very much, Piotr, for being on Ideas and Leaders. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Elena, and good luck with your undertakings and everything that you do in your life. And thanks for the invitation. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.